nashira, shir hallelujah, shir hallelujah. Hava, hava nashira, shir hallelujah, shir hallelujah.
This week's Torah portion is called Chukat, and there are several interesting things that happen in this week's Torah portion. First of all, we learn of the passing of Moses' sister, Miriam, who was considered a great prophet in her own right. And then, in the same Torah portion, Moses' brother Aaron also passes away. So two of the great three leaders of the Jewish people pass away in this Torah portion. But the part that I'm going to focus on this week is something which I think is very interesting. Moses had what we might call these days anger management issues. And there was a time where the people were always complaining. They had been taken out of Egypt and they were hungry, they were thirsty, they were in the desert. It was not easy. And they were complaining all the time to Moses. And it was a very difficult situation. So in this week's Torah portion, they're complaining once again. And they wanted water, and Moses was supposed to speak to the rock. God said if he would speak to the rock, water would flow from the rock. Well, Moses did not speak to the rock. He struck the rock twice. And there's a passage in here, which is a very famous passage in the Torah, which shows what happened when Moses lost his temper. So here's the passage that I'm talking about. We're on Numbers Chapter 19, verse 10. Vayakilu Moshe va'Aharon et hakahal el pnei hasala vayomer lahem shimuna hamorim hamin hasela hazeh notzi lachem mayim vayarem Moshe et yado vayach et hasela bimatehu pamayim Vayetzu mayim rabim, vatesht ha'edah uve'arim. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon, ya'an lo he'emantem bi, lahakdisheni le'enei b'nei Yisrael, lachen lo taviu et hakahal hazeh el ha'aretz asher natati lahem. Moses and Aaron assembled the congregation in front of the rock, and he said to them, "Listen, you rebels, shall we get water for you out of this rock?" And Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod. Out came copious water, and the community and their beasts drank. But the Eternal One said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me enough to affirm my sanctity in the sight of the Israelite people, therefore you shall not lead this congregation into the land that I have given them." Scholars say that Moses really made a bad mistake here by calling the people rebels, and it was not the kind of leadership or example that the Jewish people needed, or that any people need from their leader. And besides that, he showed what might be the worst form of idolatry, worshiping himself, when he said, "Shall we get rock from this water?" alluding to the fact that he had the power to perform miracles, and forgetting that everything comes from God. Now, there's no mitzvah, there's no law in the Torah against anger. Anger is a human emotion, but we have to learn how to control our anger and how to let go of anger and not let it linger. There was a famous rabbi, Rav Chaim Vital, and he wrote a classic work called Sha'arei Kedusha, Gates of Holiness. And in that he said, before we get to the point of performing mitzvot, there is a need to develop our basic character. The traits that comprise our character determine the way in which we will fulfill the mitzvot. We must spend our energy in perfecting the aspects of ourselves that we have to develop to perform the mitzvot with relative ease. So the conclusion that I make from this week's Torah portion is, overcoming anger is a foundation for the proper fulfillment of the entire Torah, and is therefore not needed to be counted as a separate mitzvah. And I saw something the other day that really kind of relates to this Torah portion in a interesting type of way. It was a baseball game, and I am a Florida Marlins fan, believe it or not. And the Florida Marlins have a great young player named Mike Stanton, who is one of the best young home run hitters in the country. And he did something the other day that some of his teammates said was even more impressive than all of the 400-foot home runs that he's hit this year. He went to catch a foul ball. He leaned over into the stands, caught the ball, and then after he caught the ball, two fans pushed him, and they wanted to make the sports highlight shows. They really pushed him. And Mike Stanton is a big, big, powerful man, 6'5", 270 pounds. And he stopped, and he just composed himself, and he looked at these people, and then he walked away. Well, we have to take our hats off to this man. That was a great example of composure and how to deal with your anger. So I'm not saying that anger is always inappropriate. There are times when anger is very appropriate, but we have to learn how to control ourselves. And for not controlling his anger and for not having faith in God, Moses, who was considered the greatest prophet of all, was not allowed to enter the Holy Land, and neither was his brother Aaron. And what was Aaron's sin? Well, the rabbis say that Aaron could have stopped his brother. He could have interceded. He could have said, Moses, what are you doing here? And he could have defended the Israelite people, but Aaron did nothing. So also, just by standing by when something wrong is happening, you are an accomplice. So with that, we try to do our best and try to have anger put to use in its proper way, not linger on to angry thoughts, and do the best we can and be kind to each other. Shabbat Shalom.
This broken piece, I am not afraid. I am not afraid. In the darkest hour, I will find my way on this narrow bridge, on this narrow